Hi everyone and welcome to or back to my channel. I'm Sally and this is my channel Secret Life of a Seamstress, where I love to talk all about sewing and making clothes. I hope you're all doing really well today and you're having a lovely day. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you 10 of my favourite tried and tested sewing patterns that I'd highly recommend if you are a beginner wanting to improve your sewing skills, or even if you are a more seasoned sewist looking for a quick fix or an easy project to spark your sojo and get you out of a sewing slump. So all of these patterns I have made myself, and many of them I've come back to time and again, not only to make them as they are, but also to use them for tweaks and hacks and things like that as well. So they are patterns that I really love. With each pattern, I'm going to add my estimation of the time I think it would take you to sew the pattern. But with this estimation, I'm just going to assume that you do already have a little bit of sewing experience. So take it with a pinch of salt. The first pattern that I want to share is the Ashton top by Helen's Closet. So this is a pattern that was new to me this summer, and I'll let you into a little secret. I almost didn't buy it. I have a couple of shift tops in my collection already, and I did wonder what could be so amazing about the Ashton top because it did come very highly recommended. So if you haven't seen this pattern before, it's a really lovely simple shift style top. It has bust starts, a rounded neckline, rounded armholes, and there are a few different length variations as well. So what I particularly liked about this pattern was the shape. Everything about it just sat right for me. I loved the crop style. The rounded neckline just sat really nicely on me. It wasn't too high and it wasn't too low. It has a really neat finish to it as well. The armholes are finished with the burrito method, which always looks lovely, I think. And then even the hem is finished with a hem facing as well. So I would say that the burrito and the faced finish does push this pattern more from complete beginner, maybe up to advanced beginner and someone that has a little bit of sewing experience. But if you don't fancy trying the burrito method or doing a faced hem, then you can actually just finish the seams with bias binding, which does make it slightly easier. I made two cropped versions of this top this summer and I absolutely love them both, and I can see many more of this top in my future. The next pattern I want to share is the Jessie t-shirt by True Bias. So this is another pattern that made its way into my life this summer, and I'm so glad it did. I think I might have found the perfect oversized t-shirt, and best of all, this is actually a free pattern if you sign up to the True Bias mailing list. So this t-shirt has all the features of your standard t-shirt, but what I particularly love about this pattern is that the neckline, again, sat perfectly on me. It sits just a smidgen lower than other t-shirt neckbands that I've tried in the past, and I really like that. So it makes it just that little bit more comfortable to wear. The style of the t-shirt is roomy and boxy, and it has some really flattering drop shoulders as well, which I really like in a t-shirt. The pattern has two length variations, a mid-hip and a cropped length. I've made them both, and what I will say about the cropped length is that it is pretty cropped. Perfect for wearing with high-waisted bottoms, but just check the length before you dive right in because it does come up pretty short. The next pattern I want to recommend is the Tyra Trousers by Ploen Patterns, and I really hope you're not all shouting at your screen at the moment because I have talked about these trousers a lot lately, so forgive me for that. However, I do actually think that these are possibly some of the best wide leg trousers around. Not that I've tried that many, but then you don't need to if you found the perfect pair, do you? So what I love about this pattern is, of course, the elasticated waist, which is what we all want in life really, isn't it? And it makes it so much easier to sew and also to fit as well. So this pattern, again, is a really good one for beginners. I find the legs on these trousers are wide, but they're not too wide either. They're a really nice width. They have pockets at the front and they're really easily hackable as well. So the one thing I'd maybe change about this pattern is that I would prefer a flat fronted waistband maybe than a fully elasticated waist. I've actually made that change myself and it was really easy to do. I've also recently changed the waistband to have a drawstring waist rather than an elasticated waist as well, and that was another simple change to make. So these are a really good basis, I'd say, for a wide leg pair of trousers and something that you can use to hack and change to suit you best. The pattern actually comes with two length variations. You can make them either as culottes or full length trousers, but of course it'd be really easy to cut these into shorts as well. I've actually made 4 pairs of these trousers so far. Highly recommend this pattern. If you're watching this video and you are someone who either wants to start sewing your own clothes or you want to take your sewing to the next level, then I highly recommend you check out the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. If you haven't heard of Skillshare, they are the largest online learning platform and they're run by creatives for creatives. And on their website, they have literally thousands of courses to choose from, ranging from crafty topics like dressmaking, sewing, knitting and crochet to photography, silversmithing. And there are even lots of business and work related courses as well, such as accounting, marketing, and even setting up your own YouTube channel. I found a few different courses on sewing that I think would be really helpful. I love the look of this one by Robin Burgess. It takes you through all the skills you need to start sewing your own clothes. It's really thorough and it's beautifully filmed as well. Something that Skillshare offer, which I think is really great, is something called Learning Paths, and these are curated sequential classes which build on one another to reinforce a particular skill. So if you're not sure where to start or where to go once you finish a class, then these can be a great option. There are loads of learning paths available to choose from. I've recently completed one all about productivity, which I found really helpful. For me, I've been a member of Skillshare for coming up to 3 years now, and I find it so helpful for dipping in and out of whenever I might need to learn a particular skill or improve something. I use it a lot in my work, which is why I've been watching a lot of courses on productivity and time management, and also things to do with YouTube as well. Something that I love about Skillshare as well is that there is a real feeling of community. So in lots of the courses, you can actually share your work in the comments, chat to other students and get feedback on your work. And I think that's really helpful. Skillshare are offering the first 500 people to sign up using the link in my video description a 1-month free trial. So you can sign up and use all of the benefits of Skillshare for a whole month for free. And if at the end of the month you decide it isn't for you, you can leave and you won't be charged. I'll leave that link and all of Skillshare's information in the description below the video. Thanks so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this part of the video. The next pattern I want to share is the Ultimate Shift Dress and Top pattern by Sew Over It. This is an oldie but a goodie in my opinion, and even though I haven't sewn it for quite some time, I think it's an excellent pattern if you are a beginner, or maybe if you are like a more advanced beginner and someone who wants to take their sewing to the next level and maybe try out a little bit of hacking and changing patterns around. So the Sew Over It Shift Dress and Top has a slight A-line shape. It can be made sleeveless or with sleeves. It has bust darts. It has a keyhole opening at the back with a button fastening. And there are also some cute little frill sleeves that you can add as well. So the reason I think this is a great pattern for beginners is because there are so many different techniques involved that you can use to enhance your skills. There are bust darts, there are facings, there are sleeves, there are all-in-one facings if you do the sleeveless version, and then of course you can play around with the flutter cap sleeves and things like that too. So once you've had a play around with the pattern and you know that it fits you well, a basic bodice like this is a really good starting point for pattern hacking. So you can make the top and add a peplum, for example. You can cut the bodice shorter and add a gathered skirt. It's a really good one to have in your pattern library that you can pull out time and again and play around with, and then you're making loads of different garments using a pattern that you already own and you're not going out and buying new patterns all the time. It's something that I did with this pattern when I was a beginner and I feel like it really served me well. The next pattern I wanted to include is the Southbank Sweater Dress by Nina Lee. So this is another pattern that it took me a long while to get on board with and actually buy. I don't like to buy too many patterns, particularly if I already have a lot of a certain garment in my pattern collection already, for example sweatshirts. But in the end the design tempted me enough to give in and buy it, and I'm so glad I did. So I'm going to put it out there and say that I think this is actually one of the quickest patterns there is to sew. I'm pretty sure I've sewn this one up in an hour before. So this makes it great for beginners too, and it's a really great quick fix project. So if you are a beginner, it's a really good one because you can use a stable jersey like a sweatshirt fabric or a French terry or even a ponte, which makes it much easier to sew. And because it does have that funnel neck, there's no stretching of the neckband or anything like that. It just slots right in, you sew it in and you're good to go. So there are 3 different length options with this one. You can make a dress with a bottom hem band, you can make a hip length top, or you can make a super cropped sweater as well, which I would really like to try this winter time. I've made 2 of these dresses so far and they are so cozy to wear in winter times with leggings and boots and tights. Something that I will say is that it does come up quite quite long, so if you are on the shorter side like me, you might want to think about removing an inch or so off of the length before you add the hemband, depending on how you're planning to wear it. The next pattern I want to include is the Spring Shorts by Peppermint magazine. So I'm including this one because it's such a great versatile free pattern, which is really good for beginners as well. Spring Shorts, if you haven't already seen them, are an elasticated drawstring paper bag waist pair of shorts, and they have a really pretty curved hem detail. The hem is actually finished with a facing, which I think gives a really lovely neat finish. I do love a faced hem, but if you are a beginner and you don't really fancy trying that, then I don't see why you couldn't just turn under and stitch the hem instead if you wanted to. The elasticated waist makes them easily adjustable and really easy to fit and sew as well. And if you sew them from a cotton or a linen, then your sewing process is going to be made even easier. I've made these as summer shorts, but I think they would make a really great pair of PJ shorts as well. I've made 2 pairs of these now, and the only thing I would say about them is that the paper bag waist does come up quite high. These work so well in a viscose linen in the hot weather, and I can't wait to make another pair next summertime. Pattern number 7 is the Logan Shacket by Style Arc. You all know already how much I love this pattern. I've made this countless times. There's various different versions with various different fabrics, and I love it so much. And I wanted to include it today because I think this is possibly one of the easiest shirt patterns that there is to sew. Features of the Logan Shacket include an oversized fit, patch pockets, a back yoke, a collar on a stand, straight sleeves, and a curved hem as well. So as you can see from that overview, this is perhaps not a complete beginner pattern, but if you are someone who already has a bit of sewing experience and you're ready to make your first shirt, I really think this is a great pattern to try. Unlike a proper tailored shirt, it doesn't have the burrito method finish to the yoke. It's simply a stitched yoke, which is finished with an overlocker, and the sleeves are straight in hem, so there are no fiddly cuffs to sew or anything like that either. Style Arc are known for their more minimal pattern instructions, but I actually found this pattern to be pretty well written, and it was really well drafted as well, so I felt like everything came together really nicely. So I do think it's a really great pattern to try if you are wanting to try your first shirt or your first shirt style garment. If you would like to try this pattern and you are feeling a bit nervous, I do have a sew along video on this channel which I'll link below in case you might find it helpful. Pattern number 8 is the Coco top by Tilly and the Buttons, and yes, I know this is another pattern that I talk about quite a lot here on this channel, but I did want to include it today because again I think it's a great one for beginners, particularly if you are a beginner wanting to try out knits for the first time. So the Coco is an A-line top or dress, and you can make it with a simple turn under boat neckline, or you can add a cowl neck if you prefer. So I always recommend this pattern to anyone that asks me for a really good beginner knit sewing pattern because it's super quick and easy to sew, and there are no neck bands to stretch or fit in or anything like that. And best of all, you can actually sew it from a really nice stable jersey like a French Terrier or a Ponte, or something a little bit thicker that's easier to sew. For me, a classic Breton style striped top is a real wardrobe staple, so I have 3 stripy versions of these in my wardrobe already, and to be honest I could actually do with some plain ones as well because I really like the fit of this on me. My top tip for this pattern is that it does come up super long, so you can easily get away with shortening it and therefore using a lot less fabric than the pattern recommends, which is always good, isn't it? The next pattern I wanted to include is the Scouty by Grainline Studio, and in my humble opinion this is such an underrated pattern. I really do love it. I think this is a staple in any pattern library because it's one of those simple tops that you can use if you just have a really lovely fabric that you want to show off and you don't want anything too fussy. The Scouty has no shaping to it by way of darts or gathers. It's simple in shape, boxy cut, and it has these really cute little cap sleeves. The neckline is finished with bias binding, which gives a really lovely neat finish. The hem of this top is slightly cropped, but I find it long enough to tuck in if you want to as well. Otherwise it sits just below your natural waist and maybe just on top of your hips, or it does on me anyway. So again, this is a really good quick fix pattern I find, and it's a really good one for beginners that maybe have a little bit of experience already under their belt. because although it's nice and easy to sew, it does include a couple of fiddly things in it, like fitting the cap sleeves and binding the neckline. My top tip for this pattern is to actually cut the bias binding pattern piece slightly wider than they give you. I have made it with a slightly wider piece of bias binding. I found that gave a much neater finish. This is one of those tops that you can have so many different variations of in lovely print fabrics or plain fabrics to go under cardigans and things like that, but it's also a really good one that you can dress up with different fabric. You could make it in a lace or a velvet, and a nice slinky silk or satin that you could wear with trousers and heels and feel really nice and dressed up. My last pattern, pattern number 10, is the Darling Ranges dress by Nielsen. So I'm actually mainly including this one for sentimental reasons, because as you'll know, I've made this pattern so many different times in so many different formats. I really wanted to recommend its greatness to all of you as well. So as far as beginner sewing goes, I think this is a really great introduction to a shirt dress pattern. I made this when I was quite early on in my sewing journey, and I found it absolutely fine to make with a little bit of sewing experience already under my belt. So if you haven't seen the Darling Ranges pattern, it has a few different versions, but the main version of the pattern, I guess, is this fit and flare dress. It has a nice fitted bodice, buttons through all the way down, a gathered skirt and elasticated puffy sleeves. You can also make it as a simple style blouse, or you can make it as a simple A-line button through dress as well. So the beauty of this pattern for me is its versatility. I love the bodice and I've used it on lots of different things, but also just using the pattern pieces. There are loads of ways that you can switch up and mix and match this pattern. So you can make a peplum style blouse just using the skirt pattern pieces and cutting them really short. Obviously you can switch the sleeves up and just have short sleeves and use the short sleeves from the blouse in the dress. So it's a really great one for hacking. Check the sizing for this one. I know lots of people find that it comes up larger on them, so you might want to size down a bit. Just maybe look at your size and the finished garment measurements as well, just to check. For me, I actually find the smallest size fits me perfectly, so I'm really lucky with this pattern, which is probably why I do love it so much. So you can make this one in a cotton or a linen for more structure. I actually love to make this from a viscose. I find it lovely and floaty and cool for summertime. But if you are a beginner, then maybe use something structured for your first go, because it will be that bit easier to sew. So that concludes my list of 10 great sewing patterns that you can use if you're a beginner wanting to advance your skills, or even if you are a more experienced sewist that just wants a quick fix or a great pattern to return to time and again. I have gone through these patterns quite quickly, so I will list everything down below, and also if I do have any more information on any of the patterns, any blog posts or any related videos or anything like that, then I'll be sure to link those as well. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of my list, and let me know what you would add to your own list as well. What are your tried and tested sewing patterns that you come back to time and again? I would really love to know. Don't forget to check out Skillshare after you finish watching this video, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love you to consider doing so. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like as well. I think that's everything I need to say, so I will say goodbye for now. Thanks so much for watching everyone, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!